Welcome to the January meetup of CivicTechYYC. So we want to be talking about the new year, new ideas, and new initiatives. And great to have everyone here online this evening on January 10th. But some of you folks might be viewing the recording as well. So I'll start with the land acknowledgement for us. And in the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge living on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which is the Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani First Nations, the Tsuut'ina and Stoney Nakoda, the Métis Nation Region 3, and all people who make their homes in the Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. So we're here at Civic Tech and taking a step back. You know, we are really part of this global initiative that's happening around tech for good. And of course, there's many ways that tech for good reveals itself, and you can see many of those bubbles there, and there's kind of many more. And over the last 5 years or so, this whole initiative has really accelerated. And some of the groups in Calgary, whether it's CivicTechYYC or Data for Good or Inclusivity Calgary, are working on this as well. We recently launched an initiative called the Center for Social Impact Technology. So if you haven't heard of that, you can Google it. It's a new initiative. It's a cross-Calgary initiative that's running out of Platform Calgary with the universities involved and private companies and nonprofit social groups, as well as community groups. So I'll encourage you there. And so, yeah, I mentioned this global movement in terms of the civic tech part of that. Code for All is a group that kind of coordinates some of the international groups around the world. And I don't know, there's probably 20 plus groups that are part of that Code for All organization. The US is where a lot of this stuff started. Code for America, some of you might have heard about. They've been around for a long time and have really been instrumental in aligning technologists, working with government organizations on the city, state, and national level. There's also the US Digital Services and something called 18F, which is kind of a leading edge group of technologists working in government. And of course, in Canada, we're not left behind. We have Code for Canada, which is about 5 years old now, as well as our own Canadian digital service. We like to think of civic tech as an innovation space or a collision space, where we bring together citizens and civil society and work on community challenges and opportunities, and often bring in government, whether it's the city or province, and organizations in the public sector, working on digital services challenges as well. And it's sort of in the middle with we conceptualize civic tech as that innovation space. So in Canada, there's quite a few groups, civic tech groups in Canada, definition, if you want to use it, we like to call it a movement in which citizens and governments work together to use technology, data, and design for public good. And what we're trying to do is address challenges that we're facing, as well as pursue opportunities. And here's some of the groups that are active. And so Code for Canada works as a bit of a facilitator. And every couple months we have a cross-Canada call where all the way from Vancouver to Halifax, groups are working on their own ways and their own projects as well. So Civic Tech Toronto is kind of the premier group and probably most active group in Canada. But in Edmonton, Beta City YEG has been around a long time, and they've done some really great work as well. And as we move forward, I think something we can and should discuss is maybe how we can collaborate more with Edmonton and Beta City YEG. So in Calgary, we've been around since 2017. Bringing folks together that have an interest in improving the community through technology. We launched with the help of the City of Calgary and the Civic Innovation Lab. And our very first meeting, was held at City Hall in one of their spaces there, and we had about 90 people out to discuss this launch of Civic Tech, and come a long way since then. So we celebrated our 5-year anniversary last year, and our driving force is really to break down barriers and these silos that there's lots of fantastic stuff happening in Calgary, but a lot of it is siloed, right? So what we're trying to do with the Civic Tech community is connect these pieces, right? Whether it's citizens and communities and civil society, various groups working on social innovation, the government groups, the City of Calgary, and various initiatives there, the startup world and tech world, and universities and others that are active and doing fantastic tech development and other things, as well as the private sector and the various industries and alliances that are happening there as well. So, we have meetups every month. We're always looking for new speakers and new collaborations and new projects from all of these sectors to help that collaboration. Yeah, so we meet on the second Tuesday of the month. Share the meetup link with your friends. Let's try to increase our number of members. And we do have our website, CivicTechYYC.ca, and great if you help us with tweets over on Twitter as well. Yeah, so I think I mentioned this, but we really work on the basis of projects. And so we're looking for tech-based solutions that really help to make Calgary a better place to live. And we like to use open technologies as much as possible so that they are freely available and can be used and reused and modified, and really prioritize the use of technology for public good, right? So, we don't kind of work on private type of projects that have profit motivation. We're really looking for that public good aspect of the projects that we're working on. And pre-COVID, every year we had a hackathon. So in 2018 and 2019, and that's where our first sort of tranche of projects really got launched, and I'll review some of those here in a minute. But as well, every meetup we like to take an opportunity to have folks pitch new project ideas as well. Yeah, so looking back over the 5 years, here's some of the key projects that we've launched and our members have been working on. So Volley, you might have seen in the press, Alice Lamb and her team. Alice came to one of our first hackathons and pitched the idea of an app that would be volunteering, a Tinder app for volunteers kind of thing, right? Where it would make it really easy to find volunteer opportunities. And she pitched that idea. She doesn't have a tech background at all, but had a fantastic idea. was, so great that 5 to 10 folks gathered around her, and then over the next year, they worked to put this Volley app together, initially on a website, that volleyapp.com, and just recently they launched a mobile app as well. So very cool stuff, right? And it's connected thousands of people across Calgary for volunteering opportunities. We've done things like blockchain for social good, experiments in that area. We had a really neat collaboration with the city of Calgary and the University of Calgary, who has a center of excellence in wearable technology, and launched a project to use data from wearable technology for urban planning. So that was kind of cool. And one of our most recent initiatives was, again, it was pitched at the 2019 hackathon around stuff that was being done in Chicago at that time called civic user testing. And we wanted to launch that in Calgary. So that percolated for a while. We then worked with Mount Royal University and their Catherine Pearl and her civic innovation course called Vivacity, and brought this to the students in the winter of 2021. And that was so successful that we actually launched a separate organization, a nonprofit called Inclusivity Calgary. And we're doing inclusive usability testing, which is really cool stuff. And we would love to have more volunteers helping us out there as well. But if you go to the website, you'll find a lot more about inclusivity as well. So yeah, so that's a bit of a background, for those that might be new, or a refresher for those that are thinking back over the last 5 years. And this is just a bit of a reflection and kind of posing some questions for us to be talking about and discussing when we have our conversation here in a few minutes, right? But we've had an amazing growth of members. So, over 1,100 members on Meetup, which is fantastic. But the real question is, how many are truly engaged, right? And are attending meetups or participating in the projects and that sort of thing. And how can we not only increase the number of members on Meetup, but actually increase engagement as well? And so, yeah, we've launched successful projects, but how do we generate more project ideas, right? And how do we increase our internal capacity, to help facilitate those projects and implement those projects and kind of make sure that they're successful on a go-forward basis? I'd love to be partnering with other Calgary meetups like, YYC Dev and others that, are maybe more technically oriented as well, with developers and coders and other technology folks, that we could together be working on projects. So let's think about that, how we can go beyond, just the CivicTech members to other members in Calgary and other meetups to work on these project ideas. And then, coming out of the pandemic, it's been a tough time for everybody, right? But what opportunities are there in Calgary that, we may not be aware of? Or what opportunities could we actually start to generate? So think about that as we go forward. And then sort of our internal organizational, the way we organize ourselves, right? How can we more effectively engage with members of CivicTech and establish, a larger leadership team as well, right? A lot of what we're doing now really is, Ross and myself are the kind of the team now, but we really want to expand that. We'll be talking more about that here in a minute. So, if you have an interest and have a bit of time and really want to make this successful, would really encourage you to help us and kind of join the team. And then finally, I alluded to this as well, but what is the role and the place that CivicTech holds in the tech and innovation ecosystem, and how could we partner or merge with other groups to be more efficient and effective, right? And so do we need 10 different tech-oriented groups and meetup groups, right? Would it be better to consolidate and work together? That's a bit of an open question, and I know Serene has some great ideas about that, and we've been brainstorming some of that. So hopefully we can discuss that here in a few minutes as well. So we're looking for for help and for sort of volunteers to really work on and with CivicTech. And there's sort of two kind of levels of involvement that I would encourage you to be thinking about. And the first is what we would like to do is kind of create a core team. So the core team would kind of be the group leads, and then we're looking for these co-leads in a number of different areas that I'll discuss. But those co-leads sort of have responsibility in those areas to coordinate and to work with others. And the involvement might be a few hours a week, once in a while, and but when we do have events, it certainly could be more than that, as we're organizing our hackathons or other events. And those focus areas, the co-leads would be looking for what we call core volunteers. So that's the other area, right? If you're busy, work is a bit much right now, or your family situation is such that you want to help out but might not have the cycles to be a co-lead, to consider being a core volunteer, right? And that's really regularly attending the meetups, but helping us to organize these events, support to promoting, finding potential speakers, discovering project ideas, and once in a while we'll have a larger planning and organizing event as well. So ultimately, with enough folks that would be involved, we would have a structure where we would have the core team and the co-leads in these kind of three areas, based on your interest and how many people we have expressing interest. The three areas being member engagement and communication. The second area is community collaboration and project generation. And then the third is technical operations and support. So together, the core team really runs CivicTech on an ongoing basis. We have our regular meetups and hackathons and projects and events, which we're orchestrating. And then, of course, we have our 1,000 plus members who are the volunteers and participants that are taking place. So just a little bit more on these three areas that we're looking to get folks to help us with. So, the member engagement and communication really is, helping to organize these monthly meetups, coming up with, with speakers and topics and that sort of thing as well. And then if we work together, it's not so much of a burden, right? If we, have 5 or 6 of us on the core team generating ideas and core volunteers, then it becomes pretty easy to have some great ideas. The co-leads here would also be the liaison with the tech ecosystem and other meetups that are out there, attending events and looking for trends that are happening. Also be the folks to use our LinkedIn and Twitter and social media to keep folks informed of what's happening. The second area there, the community collaboration and project generation. So really is developing relationships and, with individuals and organizations. Remember that sort of bubble diagram that I showed, how we bring these groups together, right? So whether it's the city of Calgary or the universities or private sector or whatever, right? Pulling some of that together and discovering these opportunities to collaborate and for new project ideas, as well as raising awareness of civic tech to these other people and organizations, and participating on behalf of civic tech in seminars and workshops and events and that sort of thing. And then finally, if you're kind of tech, sort of more back end type of focused, we do need a lot of help with providing technology advice and technical infrastructure support for our projects and hackathons and other events that we're running. Helping us to monitor emerging trends in the use of technology for good, and then bringing those ideas to our meetups and other events that we're running, and also organizing learning opportunities for members, right? So if there's some cool new technology out there, or you have some ideas or some great ideas for speakers on tech, to bring those to the core team as well. So yeah, so we'd love for you to express your interest in becoming a co-lead or a core volunteer. And we've developed a Google form here that Ross will put this link into the chat. So would really appreciate you filling that out and providing contact information and more importantly where you would like to help out us to really make civic tech a success. And we'll talk more about all this in our open session here in a moment. Yeah, so now we'll be having a few speakers here, and first will be Serene. And I mentioned that we have coming up February 3rd to 5th a really exciting hackathon that's going on, and I'm not going to take any more of Serene's thunder here, so I'm going to stop sharing.
Oh, you can leave that up if you want. I don't have anything formal prepared, but hi everybody, I'm Serene Yu. A little bit about me. I've been a professional software developer here in Calgary for about 16 years now. I've worked on software teams, everything from just myself to large teams in oil and gas projects, on telecommunications. I've started my own business a few years ago, and now I run Pixel Tree. We're a software consulting agency here, and we have two main mandates. One is to educate entrepreneurs about software development, and the other one is the mentorship of junior software talent in Calgary. So our entire team lives, plays, and works in Calgary, and that's what we're really passionate about, is growing the tech community here and growing the tech talent. So last year in July, we ran our first city hackathon. And so our hackathons are we really prioritize the delivery of working software at the end of the weekend. So it's a really big part of the jetting criteria. We want it to be accessible to software talent, not just programmers, but software takes all kinds. It's not just coders, it requires designers and UX designers and business people, project managers and QA testers. And so we encourage all kinds of people to participate in the hackathon. So the one we ran in July was a pretty big success. I was a little bit surprised. I kind of took it on as a passion project. That was really, really stressful because I had to bring a bunch of people together, but it was really great. We had about 110 participants across 12 teams, and none of the teams dropped out. So Brad Perry from Calgary Economic Development wanted us to run another one this year as part of Chinook Blast. And so that's what we're doing. So the theme of this upcoming hackathon is the winter city strategy. So we're seeing what people can come up with to encourage not just locals, but tourists to come and do things in Calgary in the winter. Did an interview for the press, and of course the quote they chose to use was, they'd asked me, why is this important? And I said, we want Calgary to be known as more than just a city where the air hurts your face. And that's what he put in the paper. I really got to quit saying things like that on record. So this upcoming hackathon is majority sponsored by the city. They are backing this 100%, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. And so they are sponsoring our event. We're going to have some other larger name sponsors, hopefully from all 3 levels of government. There are prizes. So the top prize will be $3,000, second is $2,000, and the third place will be $1,000. We're already 2/3 sold out. So if you are interested in participating, I really encourage you guys to get tickets. We cannot, last time we added more tickets, but we absolutely don't have space this round. We're only selling 150 tickets. That's all platform has room for. So please get your ticket. When I have stopped yammering on, I'm going to post the link to the website in the chat. If you have any other questions for me, please post them in the chat. There's also contact information on the website about it. Feel free to reach out and ask questions. I hope to see you guys there. It's tons of fun. Oh, and the mayor's coming. She's going to come do an opening keynote. We're gonna have a chat about changing the perceptions of Calgary on the international stage. We had a really great chat last time. I expect to have a really good one this round as well. She's a huge supporter of the tech industry, and especially increasing diversity in not just the tech industry, but just Calgary in general. So we are really lucky to have her there. I am really lucky to have her there. Yeah, hope you guys come out.
Super. Yeah,
Thanks,
fantastic.
Jeff.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. We're really looking forward to it. And as I was saying, hopefully we'll get a bunch of Civic Tech folks involved and others, and be able to launch some new projects as well that are really help to solidify Calgary in the winter time. It's a super idea. I think it's great. Any questions or comments for Serene? You can put them into the chat, or just unmute yourself. That should be possible as well. And yes, okay. So then we want to just give an opportunity for folks to pitch some new ideas or new projects, or sort of comment on some of the things that are happening. And this is where I'll invite you, Mike, to unmute and kind of reveal yourself and kind of tell us a bit about your art app, and where that came from, where it's at, and how we might be able to collaborate going forward.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so my name is Michael and yeah, like this idea actually stems from, I actually didn't know that CivicTech actually has another project before about this, but what stems from this idea was there's a lot of times where we walk on the streets of Calgary, and then we found public art sprinkled everywhere in our city, but there's no background. There's like the background information isn't that easily accessible. So we would see the public art, but we don't have the context, and that actually would spoil the actual art a bit without the background. So that's what gives me the idea, is that I want to provide some easy method in having the information in front of the person so that they could actually enjoy the art as well as the context behind it. So what I did was actually just a very, very simple app. I just spent, I think, 2-3 mornings to do it during the Christmas holiday break. And what it is, it's an app written in React Native, and it draws the data from the open portal from City of Calgary, and then it draws it every month in your phone. And then what happens is that it provides you with the description of the art, the artist name, as well as the Google Map location of the public art. And of course, I also added something where it's a form of like a collector stamp. This is what I actually learned from my trips to Japan, where in Japan, there's a lot of places where you go to a location and then you put a stamp on it, on a piece of paper as a souvenir. So what I did similarly is like I have the ability for people to put a virtual stamp on the app so that they could see that they have been to that location. So basically that is the general summary of my app. Now, that being said, though, I think there could be a lot of improvements that can be done. So for example, like it can have, like, for example, some Google Map capability integrated into it, instead of just having a link to Google Maps, or having some sort of gamification, like some sort of trophy with the amount of things that you could, like amount of public art that you visited, etc. There's tons of ideas that can be done, and there's probably tons of work that can be done as well. So if you are interested, if anyone is interested, as well as if anyone actually has better React Native skills than me, please let me know, so that we could talk together and then see if we could improve the app that the MVP that I've developed.
Yeah, that's great. It's fantastic, Mike. I mean, it's so important to kind of have that starting point. And I know there's a number of other cities, I think, in Canada that have done somewhat similar things. So we might be able to do a bit of collaboration, with some of the other civic tech groups, just to kind of see where they're at, and maybe share some stories. I think Edmonton might have done something somewhat similar as well. But yeah, no, I think enhancements would be fantastic. When we had our original public art mapping project, I think it too started with pulling from the City of Calgary's Open Data portal on the art. But of course, there's things that aren't in that open data set, right? So one of the ideas was to have the ability to something that's not in there, when you see it's not there, to take a picture of it, and then your geolocation, and kind of have a kind of bit of a crowdsourcing, right? So that you could then post that, and then somebody could receive these unidentified art objects, and find out a bit more about them, and then supplement the data set, right? So that we would have a more comprehensive list. And there's many other things you can imagine. Maybe some virtual reality stuff that could go on here in collaboration as well. But yeah, super. Any other comments or suggestions? What we'll do is, if folks want, we can have maybe some breakout rooms here in a little while, and Mike, you can be in kind of a breakout room, and then if folks are interested in that, you could join Mike in the breakout room.
I can add some value here as well, like if that's okay.
Sure. Yep.
I don't know, Mike, have you ever thought about getting into augmented reality into this application, where you can actually bring some sort of avatar and something like that? I don't know. I'm just throwing some ideas out there in front of everyone, right?
Yeah, it's more or less like that is a very good idea, and I've actually thought of it as for another kind of project, but because like my development skill sets aren't that great either, so I think augmented reality is something that I haven't tried it yet. But yeah, it has been an idea for another project, but no, yeah, I think it's a good idea for this one too. So I haven't really
it
thought
could
of
be
it.
it could be just like a Pokemon kind of stuff where you can actually have, sorry, my door is crying though, so I cannot disappear.
Yeah, I think it'll be good, like having augmented where you have a camera, and then when you actually look at the actual public art, it would actually recognize that public art and then give it a context. But that does require some sort of learning set as well. Like you need to train it to recognize that art. And I think we got several hundred public art in total in Calgary as well. So that would be a very gigantic task to do, just to actually create that data set.
Yeah, sure. And there's going to be definitely, you're right. There's going to be some sort of AI and ML kind of piece into this whole application as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. Well, let's we'll leave some of the details for you guys to talk about in a little while here. Anybody else have any other project ideas or things you're thinking about, or want to provide any comments on some of the stuff that we've been discussing?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Al.
I wanted to talk about a bit about what I'm doing currently. My latest project is making MVPs for anyone with an app idea. So if they have like a mobile app idea, I can create an MVP that's just that, like 3 to 5 pages, and they can take that and run with it to investors or whoever wants to look at the MVP. So.
Okay.
So I have another 2 things actually, Jeff, if you don't mind. Yeah. So
no.
I actually have 2 other projects in parallel as well. Can I actually talk about those as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Yeah. So one of the projects I want to talk about is a project called BudLib, which Ross probably heard about this before as well. So BudLib is actually a open source library management system where I've developed with another person for a particular school in Calgary called Wardolph School. And what it is, it's what we want as a goal is to actually provide a free open source library for education institutions around the world, where because schools have like very legacy library systems right now. Some of them have Excel spreadsheets that basically manages their entire inventory, and some doesn't even have Excel spreadsheets. They only have like paper cards on the back of the book, and then you fill in the date and the name, and then that would track it all. So we actually wanted to create a free and very user-friendly to deploy platform where it's both flexible and it's actually easy to use for people around the world. So this project, we've actually created a prototype, and it is being deployed to the Calgary Waldorf School right now. So it's basically running in a Java Spring Boot backend with a React front end. And basically it can be deployed through the cloud because it's basically a web platform, or it can actually be deployed in a Raspberry Pi, which is what Calgary Waldorf School is doing, because it has an Electron wrapper. So it can actually deploy it as a desktop application. So now what we're doing right now as a status is that we are currently looking at implementing camera features. So for example, if you could plug in a webcam in a Raspberry Pi, for instance, you can actually scan the ISBN and it should actually auto-populate the information for you, or it could do transactions like borrowing books or returning books for you with the webcam. And another thing that we're currently looking at right now is actually doing some Because when we're first developing this prototype, we only developed in English. But we are thinking that because we wanted this to benefit other countries as well, we would want to adopt a multi-language approach. So basically, we are looking at that as well. So if anyone is interested in contributing to this project, it is actually open source. You can actually search the GitHub repository right now on the internet. If you're interested in collaborating, let me know. Another project that I wanted to talk about is actually part of the Data for Good micro project, and it is a project about community risk assessments. So basically, there's data sets in the Open Data Calgary portal that actually tells you the crime rates, the various safety indicators of various communities around Calgary. And what I want to do is, first, I wanted to actually use this data to aggregate all of this data and come up with, like, let's say, a kind of prediction or forecast mechanism in which to alert communities as to, okay, is the community become riskier, or the plans that they implement so far is actually helping the community to actually being more safe. So basically, the overall aim of the project is to, first of all, clean up the data, to actually come up with a score to determine the risk of each of the communities. And then another thing that we were going to do is to actually create a machine learning algorithm to actually predict whether or not the risk is getting riskier or less risky, depending on the data being fed from the Open Data portal. And lastly, we will develop a web platform using Python Flask based on that machine learning mechanism, so that community members can actually use it as a planning tool for the community. And that's it for my pitching for my two other ideas as well. So if you're interested, again, please let me know.
Yeah, so maybe Mike, you can put your contact information in the chat there, and you also provide Ross some of the details or contacts or websites or whatever for each of these projects ideas, so that we can then kind of curate that with the larger civic tech community. And you did mention Data for Good. Data for Good is kind of our sister organization, and Data for Good runs what's called micro projects. And yeah, so great idea to get some collaboration between Civic Tech and Data for Good on projects as well. And maybe Jorge, maybe that's something you want to talk about as well, is your DataPost project.
Yes, hi Jeb and everybody. Yeah, so maybe I'll give a short introduction about DataPost project. So similar to what Mike was saying, we want to leverage the open data in the City of Calgary portal that is disaggregated at the community level, which community has to be understood in the concept of neighborhoods in Calgary. And then the idea of DataPost is to use that data to inform citizens about what's happening in their communities, right? So, and the way this take form is in a way of essentially infographics or visual stories, if you will. And it could cover like many subjects, right? Like it could be something like safety and crime and safety, as Mike mentioned, or there's information about City of Calgary services. There's information about education, healthcare, and the concept behind it is that we want to promote informed citizenship or citizenry, sorry, in Calgary, and that the informed citizen, from our perspective, should start at the neighborhood level. So encourage people to know what's happening in their neighborhoods, and then try to also provide not only informative but also provide them an avenue of action, and provide some paths to help on whatever issue they are being informed of, right? So that's the concept of the project, and through Data for Good, as you mentioned before, we're starting to work as part of this micro projects initiative with a few volunteers who are graciously helping us to develop that for one specific topic. But because the information is vast in the open data portal, there's definitely many opportunities in the future to work on. So that's the idea behind YYC Datapost. So I'll definitely get in touch with Mike. I think maybe our ideas have some similarities there, and there's maybe opportunities where we can work together to put something out there. But yeah, if anyone is interested in this idea as well, please reach out to me. I'll put my contact information. As I mentioned, we have already an ongoing initiative going under the micro projects with Data for Good, but there's plenty of opportunities. So the more hands available, the better, for sure.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think they're, yeah, if any of these projects are of interest to any of you, then yeah, please reach out. And then, as we move forward with CivicTech, some of them can be supporting the existing Data for Good projects, or we can launch new projects ourselves, and then let more members of Data for Good of CivicTech know that those ideas are out there. And there is the hackathon in February. It's a bit more specific around some of the theme. There may be projects there, but we do hope to have, just like we did in 2018 and 2019, we hope to have kind of a CivicTech hackathon, maybe late spring as well, to consolidate and get a larger number of people together to know about these project ideas, have these pitches, and then have the project teams form based on where people want to put their efforts. So really appreciate that. Any other comments or questions or ideas about things that CivicTech can be doing going forward?
Jeff, sorry, I do have a question maybe for you guys. From the perspective of support for the projects, I don't know, I'm just wondering, of course, more than other than the space that you're providing here to get people together and get in touch, is there any other avenues where like CivicTech supports project development, maybe with access to volunteers or contacts from other organizations and such like that?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we try to facilitate those projects. So, the project teams kind of form organically, right? And then they determine kind of what skill sets they have within the team that's formed. And if they do need additional or supplementary skills, they would come, to the core team. Then we would put out that request to the larger membership. And then, of course, we would also help to facilitate relationships, whether it's to the city or platform or other organizations that we have contacts with. So, yeah. Okay.
Okay, Jeff, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just wondering, is this specific tech that you open to general ideas towards like not so much tech related for now, but other general sustainability projects such as vertical farming or things like that?
You're sort of breaking up breaking up for me, Henry, but
I can read it out because Henry dropped it in chat there.
okay.
But yeah, he's curious to if we're interested in projects related to vertical farming within the city. It all depends if you're talking about like a group-led project, I guess, on vertical farming, or if you're talking about a corporate side, because we're more focused on volunteer. So if there's a volunteer project or a partnership there, if it's more corporate related, there's other ones for that if you're looking at starting that. If you're wanting to discuss that further, I'm connected to a few groups that have been looking into that, so you could also connect with me on LinkedIn and I can drop that in chat. Jeff, I don't know if you have anything else to add there.
Yeah, I would say I would concur. We don't have a specific project in that area. I would say though we are absolutely interested in sustainability. There has been a bunch of conversation in Calgary, about the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and what initiatives or projects could be launched that would help support those SDGs. So we are very interested in those areas and open to new project ideas as they unfold, and give an opportunity to pitch the idea and then see who wants to join up as well. Does that answer your question, Henry?
Yep, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, so we can kind of leave it, maybe just leave it there for now. We're coming up to the top of the hour. Just a kind of a recap to really be thinking about how you can help out. We're looking for a number of co-leads as well as additional core volunteers. So please fill out that form. Maybe Ross, you can post the link again, repost the link, and we'd really be thankful for your help there. And yeah, it's exciting. And then see you at the hackathon in early February, and then our next meetup will be in February 14th, and we'll be again talking about project ideas coming out of the hackathon, but also these more general project ideas, and seeing if we have critical mass, and then actually start to launch some of the projects.